In June of 2017, the U.S. government pulled out of the Paris Accords, a multi-nation agreement addressing the dangers of climate change, and began the 4-year exit process. This enraged many Americans, including environmentalists, human rights activists, and teens who will eventually be affected the most. They want environmental change and protection.
I think the biggest change has to do with climate change and the fact that ice caps are melting and polar bears seem to be dying.
Polar bears are a concern for Aliana Booth, a 16-year-old who attends Phillipsburg High School.
And the big one is also bees, because the bee population is decreasing. And it's recently the bees have been put on the endangered list.
The endangered species list is not just bees. The American eel, Chinese cobra, and Pacific bluefin tuna were all added to the endangered species list recently by the World Wildlife Fund, which works to conserve animals and habitats. Kirsten Dorman is a 17-year-old student at Warren Hills High School.
So my worries for the future of the environment mostly revolve around the extinction of certain species, especially close to the coast, because a big concern when it comes to climate change is coastal flooding.
Flooding has continued to ravage coasts along the U.S., affecting people, property, and wildlife. Climate change has direct effects on the economy too. The more coastal flooding happens, the more flood insurance will continue to go up in cost. The concerns go across generations.
Keep in mind that the basic impact of rising temperatures is rise in sea level.
My grandfather, Michael McHenry, is a former chemist and an environmental expert.
So the real issue is how long we got before sea level rise becomes a real threat.
Someone could come help save me.
The floodwaters moved in so quickly, Zachary Reichert got trapped on the roof of his Jeep.
It just happened out of nowhere. And next thing, my car was just shut off. And I'm just like, what do I do now?
Hershey Park closed Monday after parts of the theme park were submerged. Down the coast, emergency crews responding in Charlotte, North Carolina, after 5 people got trapped in a flooded business.
People will really be able to understand how to fix the problem with a plan. That's what many teens believe.
So it's really hard to tell immediately changes in the environment, because global warming is really a climate thing, which means it's more big picture. Climate change happens more gradually, whether or not it's natural. And so to see the impact of something like the Paris Accords, it would take a long time.
This decision leaves Donald Trump and the right wing of the Republican Party isolated within the United States, because the vast majority of cities in America are fighting climate change and going way beyond what even the Paris Agreement calls for.
For the people who would like to see the environment in its all-natural beauty instead of this. That means, without change, soon the entire U.S. could be subject to a variety of terrible natural disasters induced by man-made conditions.
Well, you got to have a plan. And problem with the Paris Accords, they were just targets. You got to have a plan of how you're going to get from where we are now.
Despite the federal government's rejection of evidence in climate change, many state governments have been standing by the Paris Accords. Here are the states standing together against climate change.
I think it's a great thing that the government is trying to help with the environment. I feel like they could be doing a lot more.